Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Joe Palmer begins now.
Good evening, everyone. We have an evolving bushfire situation as we go to air tonight, with emergency alerts issued in 2 parts of the state. Taking a look at a map of the situation, we've got an uncontrolled bushfire in the Huon Valley that's jumped containment lines near the Tahoon Airwalk. Another serious warning has been issued in the Central Highlands near the Great Lake. Now, bringing you your coverage tonight, we have Michelle Wisby in the town of Myena and Louise Hedger joining us from Huon. First to you, Michelle, good evening. You've been there for the past 2 days. What's happening?
Joe, we were actually only a few hundred metres away from the fire front when we received a text message from the fire service issuing an emergency warning for Myena and telling us to evacuate. Now, we've been sent here to the Great Lakes Community Hall, which is now doubling up as the evacuation centre. Some residents have chosen to stay and defend their properties if needed, but others have been urged to head to either Bothwell or Powatina. It's been a hot and windy day up here all day today. Let's take a closer look now. Flames roaring through bushland. The rural township of Myena evacuated today as a bushfire edges closer. Firefighters briefed on the ever-changing situation this afternoon.
This fire has been rated the #1 priority in the state. It is one of the larger fires and it also has the highest potential. Smoke
billowing over the area all day. An emergency warning issued around 2:30. Residents told to head either to Bothwell or Powatina. The air filled with helicopters and aeroplanes as the fire burned through thousands of hectares of bushland.
Without our air capability that we've been able to apply to this fire for the last week, this fire would have run into Myena. And it would be a long, long way through the state.
Interstate and international crews called in, walking alongside around 80 Tasmanians to fight the fire near Great Pine Tier.
What's noble about our visitors from other states and territories around Australia is that they've got fires of their own on at the moment, and they've been so supportive. They've understood that there's a higher need here and that they've balanced their own resources.
The community rallying around the crews, the Great Lake Hotel making almost 100 lunches and dinners to feed weary crews.
There's been a lot of smoke, a lot of action. We've had the fire is SES, everyone's been up here. It's like the army's arrived.
We've had 40 odd tankers out or trucks out in the car park where the helicopters are flying over frequently.
Now locals are waiting to hear what's next for the small town. And weather conditions are only expected to get worse throughout the week. Friday in particular is shaping up to be a really worrisome day for crews. One senior officer saying it's pretty much as bad as conditions can get here in Tasmania. And Joe, the Weather Bureau says it's shaping up to be our highest fire danger day of the entire season.
OK, thank you very much for that, Michelle. We move to our reporter in the Huon Valley now, Louise Hedger. Good evening, Lou. What's the situation?
Joe, down here in the Huon Valley, it's still about 30 degrees and it is quite windy down here as well. The smoke from this bushfire, which isn't that far away from us, is really blanketing this town. Looking out around the hills around us, you can barely see the tops of those hills because that smoke is so heavy. When we were driving in here, we could barely see about 2 kilometres in front of us because it is so strong here. Now, authorities are quite concerned about the fire burning near the Tahoon Airwalk. The major tourist attraction has been closed today, as have roads in the area. Firefighters say the smoke was so thick they couldn't actually tell how close that blaze was to the airwalk. But we do know now that there is real and significant potential right now that it could impact the site.
Certainly there's potential there. What that potential looks like in the next 24 hours, we'll just continue to monitor and ensure that wherever possible, we'll undertake active firefighting. It's moved through the containment line. Currently we have aircraft water bombing and doing some aerial observation. However, the smoke in that area is making it difficult to find exactly where the fire line is.
Now, Joe, while today's conditions have been really very bad for firefighters, there is more hot and windy weather on the way. Fire bans have been declared across much of the state this week for every day but Wednesday. And Joe, authorities are really urging the community in Tasmania to remain vigilant and also to stay safe.
Yeah, thank you very much for that report, Louise Hedger, joining us there. We now move on to the day's other news, and the Chief Magistrate has described a driver's behaviour as highly negligent as she handed him a suspended sentence over a fatal crash. Murray Edward Broughton was speeding by more than 30 kilometres an hour at Mornington when he crashed into another car, killing a man and injuring his wife and 2 children.
Broughton surrounded by supporters after a tense appearance in court. He'd just been handed a suspended sentence for causing death by negligent driving.
Mr. Broughton, do you have a message for the community?
This was the messy scene in Mornington in December 2017. Broughton's ute smashed from where it collided with another vehicle. In that car, a man, his wife and 2 children. Their lives changed forever and just before Christmas. The 49-year-old man died at the scene. His wife spent 5 days in hospital and the 2 children have ongoing issues. The court heard Broughton was speeding, driving at least 92 kilometres an hour in a 60 zone. And while the other car was crossing through lanes, effectively Broughton's vehicle had come out of nowhere because of its speed. The Chief Magistrate saying, "In my view, the degree of negligence in this case is high."
In weighing up the sentence, the magistrate considered aggravating factors like Broughton's 4 priors for speeding and the need for general community deterrence. But that was weighed against his remorse, his plea of guilty, participation in a traffic offenders program, and the need to support his young child with his full-time job.
Ultimately walking from court with a 10-month jail sentence, wholly suspended. He's been ordered to 120 hours of community service and is disqualified from driving for 2 years.
Is there anything you want to say about your behaviour?
While for a 49-year-old man, this reckless crash has cost him his life. Michael Breen, 7 Tasmania News.
A man has pleaded not guilty to taking part in an alleged robbery which saw petrol poured on a 2-year-old boy and his mother. Luke Jacob Brasendale faced the Launceston Magistrates Court charged with assault and aggravated armed robbery. Police are still searching for a second man believed to be involved in the alleged robbery at Kings Meadows on January 9. Mr Brasendale was remanded to reappear in the Launceston Supreme Court on March 18. Tasmania's Housing Minister is confident the end is in sight for the state's shortage of homes. Roger Jensch says more than 900 new properties and lots will be delivered by June. But Labor says it's worried about the devil in the detail.
Out again to convince Tasmanians his government makes the cut when it comes to housing. Roger Jensch says the Liberals' 4-year affordable housing action plan is plastered with big targets.
They're going to be very steep targets, but we're very confident that the work in the pipeline now will deliver the housing solutions that are needed by the time we get to the end of June.
These are the goals: to help more than 1,600 struggling households and see more than 900 new homes and lots supplied. But Labor's accused the government of fudging the numbers.
There's the 900 homes, which he's been deliberately misleading around because he's added lots in there. They have revised down social housing targets. They've revised down supported accommodation units for people at risk of homelessness.
Claims the minister flat out denies, save for one change.
Our private rental assistance program is not going to be able to meet the targets that we set because there are fewer houses available.
More than 3,000 families remain on the waiting list for public housing, while the state south is seeing a shortage of 5,000 properties.
I think there's a lot of pressure on the government to do more, but I think given the circumstances, they're doing a pretty fair job. And I really wouldn't like to be in the minister's shoes at the moment, trying to build more homes in this marketplace.
At least the minister is feeling optimistic.
I believe there will be a point soon where we start to see supply starting to meet that demand as well.
Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
This year's Mona Foma has been capped off with a vibrant finale featuring one of the country's most popular music acts. Dance pop group Panau lit up Launceston's Inveresk with lights, lasers and their loudest hits. Thousands filled the arena for the energetic ending to the 3-day Arts and Music Festival. Organisers say they are thrilled with the ticket sales and local support for the event. Around 20,000 people attended Mona Foma's free and ticketed shows. Women and girls across the state are being encouraged to pick up a club and have a crack at golf. Golf Tasmania are pushing its latest initiative in the hope of attracting more local players to the sport.
Practicing her swing before teeing off. This young golfer started hitting the links at 5 years old after her father noticed some natural talent.
Apparently when I was younger I had like a little set of plastic clubs and I used to just hit them around the lounge room, and apparently I never missed one, so Dad took me to my first lesson at Royal Hobart Golf Club.
Now at 11, she is part of a small number of young girls playing the sport.
It would be really cool to see some younger girls get into golf because it's such an amazing sport and I think everyone should have a go at it, and you can play it for most of your life.
Golf Tasmania spearheading their Vision 2025 strategy around the country. Soaking up the sun in Hobart today, encouraging women of all ages to take up golf.
Well, I guess that's the big challenge for us, isn't it? We need to make sure that the game is really relevant for young women and girls. It's a sport that people can find their place in, and we want to make sure that the sport truly reflects women right throughout the lifespan.
Look, it's one of the most popular sports around at club level. We have good, strong numbers, but again, it's dominated by men. We'd like more women involved, especially younger women.
And the future looks bright for this pro in the making.
I do enjoy playing golf, and yeah, it would be cool to become professional, so I'm going to try and work really hard to achieve that goal.
Ruby Kamane, 7 Tasmania News.
The need for a long-term drug and alcohol rehabilitation centre for women in Hobart is driving a group of Tasmanians to ride around the state. The pedal-powered mission aims to fund the service and fill a much-needed gap.
Setting off from City Park, more than a dozen riders looking to make a difference.
We're going to do our best and we're going to make it.
But beyond the beautiful backdrops, there's a good cause for this cycling endeavour. It's to raise tens of thousands of dollars for a rehabilitation centre exclusively for women, and one which offers long-term care beyond 12 months.
There's lots of amazing drug and alcohol rehab centres all around Tasmania and lots of people doing an amazing job. But just to have something that offers a bit of a longer-term approach is what we're really excited about.
The initiative will join a men's rehab program already in place, which is run by Pathways Tasmania in Moona. The reason for the ride was as simple as wanting to make a difference.
And even to see people who are, ex-drug addicts that are now running the house, which is just amazing to see people go from that level of dysfunction to actually supervising and actually helping other people get free. And we're really inspired by that.
And adding a touch of star power to the peloton is Dutch pro cyclist Winata Spoor, a regular at the state's Christmas carnivals.
Sometimes you just have to do something back to the community here.
The ride will cover 600 kilometres down the east coast before ending in Hobart on Friday. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
A new project installing headstones on unmarked graves is now underway in Launceston. Around 160 returned servicemen and women will receive a headstone and grave at Carvilla following 2 years of research.
There's been quite a few trips up here, walking every section and checking against the records to see that we haven't missed anyone. And there's always a chance we might miss one or two, but if people contact us, we're happy to add them to the list.
Among those receiving a headstone will be World War I veteran Bertram Voss.
The fact that I'm a returned serviceman as well, and so was Bert, so we shared a common interest, and it's only fit that he gets a proper grave.
The project has received a $12,500 grant from the federal government. An historical creative hub in Hobart is getting a revamp thanks to a $200,000 federal government grant. Tasmanian Independent MP Andrew Wilkie securing funding to upgrade the Salamanca Arts Centre courtyard, bringing a new vision to the area.
We want to have permanent art installations, we want to have seating, more greenery to really make this space a space where communities can sit and enjoy and observe the creativity happening.
We should invest in it because art has an inherent value and it makes our lives richer and more enjoyable,
but we should invest in it too, because it's one of the building blocks of our growing economy here in Tasmania.
Construction will be ongoing throughout the year.
The Launceston Tornadoes have inked their last key signing for the upcoming season. American forward Brittany Hodges is the club's third import player for 2019, joining Stephanie Gardner and New Zealand's Stella Beck. 25-year-old Hodges has previously played in US college basketball, as well as in Western Australia and Europe. The Torns season begins at the end of March.
Good evening. Some temperatures up to 10 degrees above average today. Fingal the high with 35. Hobart and Burnie reached 31. Launceston 32. Devonport 22 degrees. Dry across the state as well with no rain. St Helens and Campania 34 degrees. Ouse 33 and Grove 32. Smithton reached 29 and Lyoweeney 28. Friendly Beaches 26. A bit cooler for Low Head and Flinders Island on 23. King Island 21 and Strawn 20. Some low-level cloud today over the west coast, parts of Bass Strait and onshore over the east coast later in the day. And on the bigger picture, there's middle-level cloud with pockets of thunderstorms over New South Wales, South Australia and northern Western Australia. Tomorrow, a cold front slowly approaches us from the southwest. A high over the Tasman Sea ridges up the eastern seaboard and low pressure dominates inland areas of the continent. The winds west to northwesterly at 10 to 20 knots, reaching 20 to 30 knots over southern waters. A late shift to the southwest is expected, with swells up to 3 metres in western and southern waters. We have a strong wind warning for waters between Tasman Island and Low Rocky Point, a fire weather warning for the eastern half of Tasmania, a severe fire danger for the Midlands tomorrow afternoon, a very high fire danger for all northern, eastern, southern and central districts, and a total fire ban in force from midnight tonight for all areas except the west coast and northwest municipalities. So please heed those warnings. A hot day tomorrow for Hobart, 30 degrees, 29 for Geeston and Bothwell 31. Launceston, fine, warm and sunny, 32 the top, 27 for Devonport, sunny for Georgetown and 28 degrees. Burnie, a sunny day and 29, up to 31 for Strawn and Wynyard with a late shower over Strawn. And for eastern regions tomorrow, hot and sunny as well. St Helens 34, 29 for Swansea, Port Arthur up to 28 degrees. And the UV again reaching the extreme end of the scale. On Wednesday, morning showers over the west and south with a shower over the north in the afternoon. A fine day on Thursday with just a morning shower over the north. Hot over the south and east on Friday, mainly fine apart from a shower developing over the west. A late shower in Perth tomorrow. Sunny weather for Adelaide and Melbourne, partly cloudy for Canberra, Sydney and Brisbane, and a storm likely in Darwin. Sunny and 23 in Hobart, sunny and 26 in Launceston, fine in Devonport as well and 24 degrees. They're the current conditions, Joe. As we know, conditions can change, as the conditions are changing as we speak. On the fire front, you've got some latest for us.
Yeah, I certainly do, Murph. Just to update you on the current fire situation, and the bushfire burning in Huon Valley has been downgraded to an emergency alert level to watch and act. A fire had jumped containment lines earlier today near the Terhune Airwalk. An emergency warning is current in the Central Highlands near the Great Lake. Now, the Tasmania Fire Service stresses these fires may be out of control and fast moving, also saying thick smoke in some parts is really making it quite difficult to see. An evacuation centre has been set up at the Bothwell Town Hall, which is on Alexander Street. For the latest information, you need to check the Tasmania Fire Service website, and for information on current road closures, please visit the Tasmania Police website. And of course, we'll bring you more coverage of these fires tomorrow night. But for now, that's all from the news team. Have a lovely evening. We'll see you with updates throughout the evening. Bye for now.